The Second World War had many different kinds of weapons used by soldiers. Let's take a look at what was made and used on the battlefield. Most soldiers carried a bolt-action rifle. Each bullet was fired one at a time by pulling a small handle, called a bolt, back, and then pushing it forward after every shot. The rifle was reloaded by placing a clip of bullets into the magazine. The rifles used by the Allied forces were the Lee Enfield Mk III and No. 4 for Britain and the Commonwealth, the Springfield Model 1903 for the USA, and the Mosin Nagant M9 130 for the USSR. For the Axis powers, the rifles used were the Karabiner 98K for Germany, the Arisaka Type 99 and Type 38 for Japan, and the Carcano Modello 1891 for Italy. As the war went on, semi-automatic rifles became more common. These weapons used gas from a fired bullet to reload on their own and could fire shot after shot without needing to move a bolt each time. Some of these rifles include the M1 Garand and the M1 Carbine for the USA, the SVT-40 for the USSR, and the Gewehr 43 for Germany. Just like in the First World War, the machine gun was a deadly weapon that changed the way wars were fought. Soldiers were trained around two types: the HMG, which was mostly used in dugout positions, and the LMG, which was lighter, easier to carry, and usually loaded with a magazine. The German MG-42 is one terrifying example of a general-purpose machine. It could fire between 1,200 and 1,500 bullets per minute. Because of this, it was given the nickname Hitler's buzzsaw. Other weapons worth noting include the drum-fed, gas-operated DP-28 used by Soviet-Russian forces, the top-mounted magazine Bren gun for the British, which was based on a Czech design, and the Browning automatic rifle, BR, for U.S. forces. The submachine gun, which was built to fire pistol bullets over short distances, became more advanced by the time of the Second World War. First used by gangsters in the 1920s, the Thompson SMG ended up in the hands of U.S. and British forces during the war. The British found the Thompson to be dependable but too expensive, so they made their own cheaper submachine gun, the STEN gun. Even though it was cheap and easy to build, it had a habit of jamming. These submachine guns were also handed out to resistance groups in Nazi-occupied Europe. The PPSh 41, used by Soviet forces, was another cheap and easy-to-make submachine gun. It worked well on the battlefield and came with a 71-round drum magazine. Lastly, the German Army's MP-40 held 32 rounds and was used widely by foot soldiers, paratroopers, and platoon and squad leaders. Germany built a new and creative semi- and fully automatic assault rifle near the end of the war called the STG-44, also known as the Maschinenpistole 44. It was a one-of-a-kind mix between a rifle and a submachine gun, firing a shorter 7.922 33mm Kurz round. It would go on to inspire post-war assault rifles like the AK-47. Handguns were given to officers, pilots, and tank crew members. They were not very accurate and were only useful in close-range fighting. Some of the handguns used were the M1911 for the United States, the Walther P38, and Luger P08 for Germany, with the Luger being highly prized as a trophy by Allied soldiers. The Webley Mark 6 and Enfield No. 2 for Britain and its Commonwealth, the TT-33 for the Soviets, and the Nambu Type 14 for Japan. Flamethrowers were used again in the Second World War, just as they had been used as a frightening weapon in the First World War. One example was Marines who used flamethrowers to clear out enemy foxholes and fortified positions in the Pacific. Hand grenades were an important weapon in a foot soldier's gear. They could be thrown by hand or launched from a rifle. Different types of grenades included explosive, smoke, and tear gas. A more basic type of grenade was the Molotov cocktail, which was first used in large numbers by Finnish soldiers against the Soviet Union just before WWII began. Lightweight, portable anti-tank weapons were also used by soldiers in the Second World War. They were simply metal tubes that fired a rocket when the trigger was pulled. U.S. forces used the bazooka, while the Germans used the Panzerschreck. Now you know about some of the weapons soldiers used during WWII. Leave a comment below and tell us which weapon you found the most interesting. Subscribe to see more history videos. Get the World War II book out today.